So, a lot of people, including myself, have said when they started playing Persona, the moment they knew the game was going to be good was when Nanako showed up. And we first heard her say, "Every day's a great day at your Junes." Because Nanako's probably my favorite character. And look at her, she's just so cute. You just kind of want to pinch her cheeks. Nanako is absolutely adorable. And she's really the heart of the Persona 4. She really is kind of the not exactly the glue that binds everyone together, but she's just kind of this kind of island of, I don't know if you want to call it purity, of kindness in the middle of kind of all the craziness that's going on. And all I have to say is, if I ever have a daughter, I really wish she's exactly like Nanako. I don't know if you could ask for more in a daughter. Very loving, dutiful, kind, selfless, etc. So yeah, I love Nanako. So when she showed up, I immediately kind of said to myself, "Oh look, you just have this really nice, sweet little girl. This game isn't going to be like some of the other SMT games that are like super cynical, everybody's evil, everybody's just like a really bad person. We at least have one character who's just kind of an unambiguously kind, good guy, more or less." And that's kind of, I think, one of the reasons why people like Persona 4 so much, is just because it is a lot more wholesome, I think, than most of Atlus's games. It really captures that small town feel. It really kind of draws you in. It really makes you care about the people in the game. Like when I was playing the Persona 4, I got really emotionally invested in it. I really wanted to see what happened next. I was really kind of on the edge of my seat, hoping that things would turn out for the protagonists. And this is something a friend of mine said when I bullied him into playing Persona 4, is when Nanako got kidnapped, he said to me, "I'm going to save Nanako or die trying." And really, like, when I got to that part, I just played the game more because I wanted to save Nanako. I know it's a video game. I know she's not real. But it's kind of touches like that. It's having characters that you legitimately have affection for. That is kind of the mark of a good video game. And I think it's something why the Persona games really draw people in, because it kind of has a certain heart and a certain kind of realism to the characters that makes you feel like you know them, that just a lot of other things lack. And that's, I think, something Atlus has always been good at. Even if their stories are absurd, even if their gameplay can be random, arbitrary, and frustrating, they can do characters and dialogue better than just about any other company I've ever seen. So let's talk about Nanako. So Nanako was very close to her mother, who died prior to the events of the game in a hit and run. Unusual for a girl who's only 6 or 7 years old, she manages to take it with a degree of stoicism. As opposed to falling into a depression, Nanako takes over her mother's role, doing a lot of the housework, shopping, and cooking. Now keep in mind, Nanako's only 6 or 7 years old. I think I was still playing with, like, trucks when I was 6 or 7 years old. I was in absolutely no state to act like that, and yet she bears her mother's death with a lot of grace and dignity that belies her years. And like I said, her father takes her mother's death a lot harder. I mean, Nanako hurts a great deal, but she remains, I guess, kind of more functional. Dojima develops an obsession with catching the person who killed his wife. And combined with that, apparently Nanako looks exactly like her mother and has a very similar temperament. And that, combined with the guilt, I guess kind of the pain of being around someone so similar to his wife, combined with the guilt of not being able to catch her and not being able to save his wife, over the course of the game really, or I guess before the game and over the course of it, has led them to kind of become estranged to a certain degree. And Dojima is very afraid of facing his daughter, because he's kind of, I think, on some level realized how badly he's screwed up and how kind of strained the relationship has become, and he's scared to face it because he knows it's entirely his fault and Nanako did absolutely nothing. involved with it. So what's kind of interesting is everybody in the series in the game has a shadow, kind of the negative aspect of themselves, etc., and their worlds reflect the darkness within their soul. Like Yusuke's reflects the resentment he feels towards people for viewing him as an out of towner. Rize's reflects her, I guess you could say, uncertainties with being a teen idol, of whether she kind of feels, I guess, kind of skanky or slutty to a certain extent, and she's not sure whether or not it's really her. Kenji reflects his uncertain sexuality, and Naoto's, of course, reflects her. Not really. I'll do a profile on Naoto. It's not exactly gender confusion, but just the limitations of being a female in kind of a very male-dominated profession. Nanako, on the other hand, I think in part because she's too young to develop a shadow, and also because there isn't any evil within her, has a much brighter and more pleasant inner world. Her inner world is literally heaven because she believes that her mother has gone to heaven. And like I said, it's while there's still like shadows and stuff within it, the actual world itself reflects her inner purity. And like I said, she's kind of the heart of the game. She's kind of the rock of the protagonist, because at the end of every day you come home and Nanako's sitting there watching TV after buying groceries and doing the laundry. And I really loved her social link. As your character gets closer to her, you kind of take over a legitimate older brother role, and she starts calling you big bro, which is absolutely adorable. And it's another kind of nice thing about that is your friends all recognize how cute and just wonderful Nanako is, so they let her hang out with them, and they buy her like a present when they go away on the school trip and stuff like that. So probably the most kind of quirky aspect of her personality is she's obsessed with Junes. She's obsessed with seeing the jingles. She likes going there, etc. What the reason is for that, I'm not really sure. I guess just because she's from a small town. I think Inaba is a suburb of Tokyo, but it's basically just a small town. And she just doesn't have much exposure to kind of things that are large in scale. So when they talk about going on vacation, she wants to go to Junes. It's just kind of a quirky aspect of her personality. But it's something I like. It's a very easy but effective way to give depth to a character, to add a quirk, to add in a hobby, to add in something like that, like to have them a garden, like with Grand Admiral Pelion. I think it added a lot of it, kind of a little bit of depth to his character to have him interested in gardening, and to have kind of his gardening as a reflection of his belief in the New Order and a reflection of his political philosophy. So I think it was just kind of an interesting way to build a couple layers on top of a character, or they have a family, or they have a cat or something. But yeah, so I like that aspect of her. She also has the katsu, or whatever the heated table is. But ultimately, she's another kind of endearing quality. She's very easy to make happy if you just tell her you appreciate her, you spend time with her, you read her story. She just gets it just kind of means the world to her. Like I said, if I ever have a daughter, I really wish she would kind of be exactly like Nanako. She's just kind of such a pure, sweet girl. And like I said, it really just makes the whole game, her presence makes it seem a lot more wholesome. It makes your character a lot more sympathetic, just how you're kind to her, and how she starts calling you big bro, etc. And reconciling her and her father, basically telling her father that he's a coward who's running away from his own daughter, in that he has such a wonderful daughter, and he should appreciate her and cherish her rather than run away from her, is probably one of my favorite moments in any RPG. It's something I really enjoyed. So, yeah, Nanako is... Look at her. She's just so cute. Like I said, I just want to hug her and pinch her cheeks. And I'm sure people will think that's creepy, but, I mean, look at her. I just... She's such a just an adorable little girl. Something I really liked in the anime was how they added a Nanako centric episode in where she gets dressed up like a detective and tries to solve mysteries. I remember when I was watching the anime, I'm like, with a friend of mine, he was like, "Is this a Nanako centered episode?" I'm like, "It sure is." Another kind of funny thing is she expresses a desire to marry the protagonist, which isn't creepy despite her being your first cousin, I think it is. Because she's a little girl, she's like 6 years old. That's a very common thing. A lot of men, a lot of little boys, myself included, talk about marrying their mothers when they grow up. That's not an Oedipus complex. They're too young to really understand what it means. But no, Nanako's storyline is, I think, one of the strongest moments in any JRPG in any video game. Her kidnapping was something that honestly made me like really want to just play the game more and save her. She kind of drew you in and got you emotionally invested. And like I said, I could see a little girl kind of being like her. Granted, is she kind of idealized? Yes, but it's a story, and regardless of whether or not it's necessarily real, if it can draw you in, if it can make you feel real emotions and care about someone, even if even if they're fictional, that's exactly the kind of thing that you want, and a sign of good storytelling. So Nanako remains the cutest, best little girl who's ever lived, and we salute you, Nanako. And to just kind of play us out, every day's a great day at your Junes.